He's saying we don't need all this.
I don't. It's noise.
And we can hopefully jump.
All right, everyone.
Yes, you do.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming tonight, and I'm calling the Common Council meeting to order. If we could all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Michelle, could you help us with roll call, please?
Sure can. Doug Saloga.
Here.
Jim Barron. Jackie Valdy.
Here.
Wayne Dean.
Here.
Matt Grimmer.
Yep.
Kevin Maples.
Here.
Tim Eicher.
Here.
Kent Atwell.
Present.
Tom Hafner.
Here.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, our first special order of business tonight is recognition of Marie Williams for her more than 17 years of outstanding public service and contribution to the city of Delafield. The presenters will be Tom Hafner and the council president Tim Eicher and the mayor. Oh, that was bad timing.
Business calls. Yeah, to start off, I just got a few words I want to say to Marie, or to the audience regarding Marie. Marie and I started working for the city within 8 months of each other about 17 years ago. I've come to appreciate her both as a colleague and as a friend in the workplace. She has been an absolutely exemplary employee for the city. I've come to really appreciate her strong analytical skills, attention to detail, and loyalty to our organization. She deserves a lot of the credit for the city achieving the GFOA Distinguished Budget Presentation Awards. She will definitely be missed, not only for her technical expertise, but more importantly for her warm and caring personality. I know that there are a lot of people that are going to miss Marie's presence at work. When it comes to people and relationships, change is often difficult for me. We've made a good team working together over the years. This has been a sad couple of weeks for me knowing that Marie is retiring. But at the same time, I'm very happy for her that she has this opportunity to retire at this time. Marie, you will be missed. Feel free to stop in anytime. Let us know if you ever need anything, and I wish you much happiness in your retirement.
I have this wonderful plaque to present to Marie. It is to Marie Williams, Finance Officer and Treasurer, in recognition and appreciation of over 17 years of outstanding public service and contributions to the city of Delafield, dated the 2nd day of March 2020. I regret my name's not on here. It's Kent Atwell, Michelle, and Tom. A plaque doesn't come close to representing how much you've done for the city, but the numbers are here. The 17 years doesn't come close to how much you've instilled your work ethic and discipline in the numbers, and just you're going to be missed. Looking down at you every time we make a change in the budget. You do your numbers and you come up and you give us the answer, and you're very calm and collected, and we need that steady hand at the wheel, so we're going to find you when we need you. So thank you very much.
I also just wanted to thank Marie. You know, I've worked with Marie as a citizen, as a candidate, as a mayor, as an older person, and she's always been there to be very helpful and help explain sometimes the difficult financing of government when we try to compare that how we do it in the private sector. So very thankful for all your years of service. And Mr. Smith might appreciate this, but this is a picture of the article about your retirement in the paper, and much success in your retirement.
Thank you. Thank you, Ken.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. Sorry,
Here, you want a mic? Mike's going to kill me.
I'm sorry, I have laryngitis, so I'm going to make it short. Thank you. The last 17, 18 years have been truly wonderful. My coworkers are amazing people. The council has been really great to work with, and I just appreciate all you've done for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Now go someplace warm.
Okay. Okay, our next special order of business is an interdepartmental citizen academy presenter, Chief Keel.
Obviously, you have a full agenda and a full house. I'm going to try to make this as quick as I can for me. But I would like to also point out how much Marie is going to be missed at the police department, because I don't know who's going to point out so nicely that I made a mathematical error. Because that happens a lot, and answer all my annoying questions. But the reason I wanted to come here, and like I said, I will try to make it quick, is to invite all of our elected officials, city employees, citizens. We have for years now co-sponsored a Citizens Academy with our partners in law enforcement and Lake Country Fire. It is a 10-week commitment, but we don't take strict attendance. And during those 10 weeks, you get to experience a little bit of what we go through as cops. Some of the high points include we make arrangements at the technical college. We go and put you through emergency vehicle operations. So you actually get behind the wheel of a squad, and you drive the drills that a recruit would be expected to get through. We also take our attendees to the technical college, and they go through the firearm simulator to get a better understanding of the decision-making process and stress involved in use of force. Our portion at Delafield, we do the major investigations unit, and we talk about some of the misconceptions that are out there due to popular culture compared to what the reality of conducting investigations is. So it's an opportunity for anybody to come in and get an idea of what we actually do as police and fire, because they are involved. Anyone is welcome. There's no cost to it. We manage it on our end by scheduling people to work to do the presentations on duty. And once again, it's been quite a while since we've had an elected official or a city official participate, so I thought I would come out and invite you all to participate. I have a bunch of the applications. I'll leave them up with Michelle if you're interested.
Thank you, Chief.
They're also available online on our website, I believe.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you very much. Okay, now we will do citizens' comments, excuse me, for items on or off the agenda. Is there anyone that would like to come up and speak for citizens' comments? Come on up, Mr. Fleming. We're probably just going to have a 5-minute cap today. I think we have a lot of people here from Marie, and I don't think we have a lot of speakers, so 5 minutes. Please try to keep your comments to less than 5 minutes.
Mayor and Common Council members, I was adhering to your 3-minute requirement.
Better yet.
I'm Bob Fleming, Delafield Brew House, 3832 Hillside Drive. One definition, if you beg your indulgence while I read from my notes, but one definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. A case in point is with the Heartland Sportsman's Club. They have taken that definition one step further. They are requesting that the club be allowed to operate 63 hours per week. That number of hours are almost double of what the Delafield Plan Commission provided in the new CUP. Even the proposed 34 hours could be a significant hardship to our business during the season when customers are enjoying the outside weather. In addition, the brew house has invested in a site which is a solution for the very growing outside wedding market. The area is adjacent to our outdoor patio. The result has been 6 weekend weddings in 2018, followed by 10 weekend weddings in 2019. As of the end of January, the brew house had already booked reservations for 11 weekend weddings for the period of mid-May until the end of September. This recent reservation success was due in great part by the comfort the customers had when presented with the fact that the HSC had not been operating over the past 8 to 10 years. Please note that the weekend reservations could very well be canceled if the customers were aware that the shooting would occur during weddings on weekends. Cancellations would be a loss of revenue to the brew house of at least $40,000 or more. Our current survival is based heavily on weekend events and is mandatory for our success going forward. We seriously request that no range activities be run on weekends from 11 a.m. until sunset. Another issue of significant importance is the safety of our customers. All or most of you are aware of the young lady that was shot on our patio almost 10 years ago. The HSC now does not want to fully baffle the ranges to deflect projectiles from leaving the range. I repeat, does not want to fully baffle the range. As you may recall in the past, there were at least a half dozen reported events of a round hitting commercial building or narrowly missing a person walking in Kettle Court. While that was disputed by the Heartland Club, the fact remains there was no other source for those projectiles in the area. We respectfully ask the members of the Delafield Common Council to adhere to or improve upon the submitted plan commission at CUP in favor of the dozens of City of Delafield local businesses and private residences adjacent to the shooting range. We appreciate your interest and continued support. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Would you like to be next, Joan?
Hello, my name is Joan Zepecki, and I've shared a lot line with the Heartland Sportsman Club since late
Your address?
1995.
Joan, we need your address.
Oh, sorry, N8 W30524 Cherokee Trail. Thanks for the opportunity to come and address you today. Common Council, Mayor, thank you very much. I will make 2 quick points. So I've decided only to address 2, although there's many. The Heartland Sportsman's Club does not want to put a fence around the property, claiming that the environmental corridor defined by sewer pack prevents them from fencing the property. But we have a letter from Christopher Jors of sewer pack that contains, that basically says that you can fence the property and that they offer preferred options in which to minimize the disruption. Additionally, they point out that in fact, for public safety, there are ways in which you should in fact fence the property. I would strongly encourage you and say that it's really imperative before the gun club is allowed to reopen, you require them to fence the property for the safety of the neighbors and the businesses that are adjacent. Additionally, the Heartland Sportsman's Club does not want to agree with the provisions under the term of archery. The judge stated that the city may follow the City of Delafield's ordinances in granting the CUP. The proposed CUP takes directly into the from the municipal code the restrictions for allowing archery shooting. Throwing, shooting, or hunting with bow, arrow, or crossbow on private property is not allowed within 100 yards from a building located on another person's land. This restriction does not apply if the person who owns the land in which the building is located provides expressed written permission to hunt within 100 yards of the building. Now, this seems reasonable to work with your neighbors and garner that permission. I can say, that sharing a property with them for many, many years, we have picked up many, many arrows from our property. And the Heartland's Sportsman Club wants to strike this intent from the city code, from their CUP, and I strongly urge you to keep that within the CUP. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much for your comments. Ms. Wiedemeyer? This,
Okay, good evening. Pam Wiedemeyer, 2740 Nagawicca Avenue. First, I am requesting 2 newspaper articles I wrote to be included and recorded in tonight's Common Council official minutes. Article number 1 was from the Lake Country Now, printed on Wednesday, January 16, 2020. The second one, Waukesha Freeman, printed on Wednesday, February 19, 2020. I will read only one to the council as both are similar. Letters to the editor. The deer color delayed, fortunately for Delafield residents. To the editor, and this is printed from the Waukesha Freeman. What is a deer color? The Waukesha Freeman printed an article September 20th, 2018 titled Deer Management Debate in Delafield, giving an explanation of the deer color device. A quote from a Delafield Deer Management Committee member reads, "The circular-shaped device is installed in a deer feeder that serves as a baiting station. When the deer places its head in both the feeder and the device, a bolt fires into the deer's brain." The Deer Management Commission sent a letter to the members of the Delafield Common Council dated August 28, 2018. Included in this letter was this statement, http://deer color warning. This video contains graphic images. Viewer discretion advised. The DNR has given us approval to experiment with this device. If council members were warned about viewing this on a computer screen, what about the rest of us that may see or hear this not on a computer screen? On May 1, 2019, the Deer Management draft minutes read, "The deer color device required additional permitting from the DNR. Additional permitting and formal paperwork may take a very long time. Fortunately for city residents, the deer color needs additional permitting." I wish my article could end here. On January 21st, 2020, a Freeman staff employee sent an email to a member of the Deer Management Committee, and this is part of his reply. If in the future we decide that the use of the device is warranted and we can develop a strategy to use the device on public and private land, the committee may decide to move forward with it. But frankly, I believe that if I ever need request to use the device with our nuisance takes, the DNR would easily grant us permission. Quote, "I do not want any children or adults to accidentally have to see or hear this, either on public land or private land." And that was the end of that article. The other article is similar. On January 21st, 2020, Mr. Dean sent an email to the Waukesha Freeman employee. There were many words in all capital letters. The words in capital letters were in reference to me. Words entered in all capital letters is widely perceived as the electronic version of shouting. In my opinion, it appears that Mr. Dean may be taking my articles personally. I only wish to inform the public and voice my opinions. I will end here, and I do have copies of both articles for all of you. Thank you.
thank you for your comments. Who would like to
I
read?
also have some articles that are addition that I can leave at the door as well, copies of my work.
Okay. Great, who would like to be next? Come on up, sir.
Okay, if you'd pass these over, please.
Sure.
My name is Charlie Winter, North 8, West 30658, Broken Bow Trail, town of Delafield. And I have a few comments regarding the lack of sound abatement measures at the Heartland Sportsman's Club. The discharge of high-powered rifles, pistols, and 12-gauge shotguns at the Heartland Sportsman's Club have in the past generated noise levels of at least 130 decibels or more at my residential property. It is imperative that the City of Delafield require that the Heartland Sportsman's Club implement a comprehensive program of sound abatement prior to the issuance of any conditional use permit. At the January 29th Plan Commission meeting, Mr. Roger Dupler, the City of Delafield city planner, stated that the City of Delafield would not require the Heartland Sportsman's Club to provide any additional sound abatement improvements since the gun club had already installed sufficient sound abatement measures prior to the revocation of its conditional use permit in 2010. This view is mistaken. The Heartland Sportsman's Club has never taken sound abatement seriously, and the gun club has never implemented any meaningful sound abatement improvements whatsoever. Any sound reduction improvements that the gun club claims it has made in the past have been largely self-serving and totally ineffective. Only sound levels of not more than the normal suburban background noise level of 20 decibels to 40 decibels should be allowed to escape from the gun club's premises. Do not allow the Heartland Sportsman's Club to discharge firearms without first requiring it to implement a comprehensive and effective sound abatement program. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Who would like to be next? Come on up. Would you like a copy?
Cold in here. You guys got like nose running. Not sad, but might be this goes through. Hi, everybody. John Barker, multiple addresses. You want me to list them down? Kettle Court. It's fun. 3875 Kettle Court. It's the newest property at the end of the street. 3776, which is directly in the fallout zone of the shotgun range. 3655, which is up the street. So 3 commercial properties and a residence as well. I'm the owner of Archon Manufacturing, the whole Archon family, and Lake Country Candies. Come here a lot to talk to you guys about the gun club issue. I guess the most important one that I want to stress is the baffles. And if you look at them, funny enough, if anybody's ever walked out there, there hasn't been any activity in 10 years. So you know what it looks like when something's abandoned for 10 years? It looks kind of like Beirut, like a bomb just went off and there's nothing. It's like it's a dead zone, like, pardon the dead, but it looks like it's just a wasteland. And so if you're going to reopen something, I would say you need to properly do it with funding and a good focus on attention. Like, what are you going to do? Like, every time I come here and I want to put a new building up, I present a building to you people, and the plan commission looks at it. You guys look at it. You say, this is good. Or you say, John, we like this, we like that. You guys look at this situation, and it's absurd. I mean, these guys want to just open air shoot and into some little, haphazard little structures. No, you need to fully guard that thing. And the thing that just got me really good the last time, their attorney, well, we can't guarantee if a bullet's going to not leave this way. Well, really? I don't know. I mean, I love that the chief is here. Here's the guy that represents the utmost of safety in this community. He is the paramount. The buck stops with him. You ask him, when he pulls that firearm out of that holster and he's going to shoot at something, what's the main concern he wants to know? What's behind that object? What is my target and the area behind it? Because if I don't hit my target, what am I going to hit? And the problem with that is that if you look at all the ranges, they're in the direct line of fire of Bob Fleming's building, my buildings, all of Kettle Court. Anything that escapes that place has the absolute opportunity to cause some grave danger and or be fatal. And if you can't capture that from leaving that, I think the city's in for a real nightmare on their hands. I mean, you look at it, I don't know what the city has for their insurance policies or anything like that. I know what I carry. I know the umbrella policies I have because I manufacture parts that go global. I manufacture parts that go in everything you use and touch, cars, airplanes, you name it, I'm putting parts in it. So I have tens of millions of dollars worth of insurance policies for my product to meet the criteria of the customer. What type of insurance policy are these guys going to have? What happens if something leaves their range? Who's in charge of that? Who's at fault? Because if you guys allow that to happen, I know you don't want to, and I know you want to keep these guys at bay and have criteria that gets met. I think it's kind of hilarious. I look at it like, really? How are we going to do this? And then I think to myself, you look at, like, plainly, the HSC does not want to install shooter screens or curtains on the north side of the property line. The trap shoot fall zone on the commercial buildings on Kettle Court, that's mine. I have the commercial properties on Kettle Court, and I'm in that fallout zone. So they should be installing it right at the edge. They should be tall enough to trap anything. There's so many things that it should be. I guess I look back and I say, I'm held accountable to build a building and have safety and lighting and parking lots and landscaping and everything that's going to meet the criteria of what the city calls out for is this is something that we want a building or a business to have. What criteria do these guys have? I mean, a fence, it's not going to keep a bullet out. It's going to keep people from walking onto it. But the shooter traps and all these baffles, that's paramount. That's like a no compromising deal that needs to be very, very well thought out. And it can't allow it to leave. I mean, if it does, it's going to go right into my property. It's going to go in buildings, parking lots, people, you name it. It's tough. So, I guess I would love to know what your thoughts are on that. And I don't know can anybody answer that? No?
We can't during citizens' comments.
No, you
Sorry.
can't. I know, I get that. But I guess that's the gist of it. And I don't. It's kind of a sad state that certain things get held accountable and other things kind of are basically. I'm thinking it might not be, but I hope you do the right thing and make some great decisions like you've done in the past for me. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you for your comments. Who would like to be next? Come on up.
My name is Karen Wilkin, 3325 Broken Bow Trail, Delafield. I'm speaking in support of the amended conditional use permit recently approved by the Planning Commission because the city needs to take this matter very seriously. I don't want this gun club open, but if it has to open, the city needs to hold it to the highest standards of safety and limit its hours and environmental impact to protect the homes and businesses that will be negatively impacted. My husband and I purchased our home 2 years ago because we like the big yards and the quiet neighborhood. We purchased a foreclosure intending to fix it up, and the property values are very important to us. We had no idea if there was an outdoor gun range in the neighborhood, and this is very upsetting to us. The HSC says that property values won't be negatively impacted, but that's entirely wrong. I have two references. First, real estate experts have studied this and concluded that outdoor gun ranges drag property values down 3.7%. Second, the HSC itself, in 2011, as I understand it, petitioned the city assessor to reduce the value of its own property because of the cost of lead remediation and market stigma of contamination. The HSC cannot truthfully claim that property values will not suffer when they have acknowledged that their own property is less valuable as a result of their activities. They also claim that property owners in the area should not complain because we know of their previous irresponsible activities. This is patently false. My husband and I had no idea when we purchased our property that there was an open-range gun club in the area, and we can't believe the city will allow this. Thank you for listening to our concerns.
Great, thank you very much for your comments. Who'd like to be next? Gentleman behind the pole.
My name is Stephen Green. I live at 925 Broken Bow Court. I'd like to just talk a little bit about the gun club situation, the lead contamination remediation that has been included in the CUP, and part of which is being recommended to be struck by the HSC. And the city of Delafield has included in the CUP precise and necessary requirements that the HSC minimize the pollution hazards of its operation to the community. And it's a well-known fact that authorized activities under the CUP will result in further contamination to air, soil, groundwater in the direct vicinity. And the city code 10.02 public nuisance refers to the escape of atmospheric pollutants within the city within 1 mile therefrom in such quantities to endanger the health of persons of ordinary sensibilities and or threaten damage to property in the city. And so determining levels of pollution to health of property shall be in accordance with the guidelines established by the EPA and the DNR. The EPA states that lead shot allowed to remain in the ground is considered to be solid waste. Not only is the lead in the ground a major issue, but dangerous lead dust from firearms is a health concern. And for those living close to the gun range property, these are real threats to their families, to their pets, and also to plentiful wildlife in the vicinity. And the solution to lead contamination is removing the lead from the ground. And the lead becomes scrap metal once it is removed from the ground, and once the soil is separated from it, the soil can be put back on the range with no further treatment. So while the HSC contends their operation does not result in lower values to lead contamination, as we just heard, that's not the case. And they themselves got a reduction in property taxes in 2011 because of that very reason, as they submitted documents showing that their property values had been affected. So they give the impression that they want to coexist with the community, but the things they're asking for to be removed from the CUP say otherwise. And there's ample information from the available to the HSC regarding best management practices, the BMP, regarding lead remediation and contamination on shooting ranges. And the recommendations of the EPA are for shooting operation are in their BMP manual, Best Management Practices Manual, which has 3 sections. The first one is background on why lead is a concern to health and environment and the importance of a BMP program to manage how the laws are applicable to lead management at the shooting range community. The second part is physical and operational characteristics of gun ranges on selecting successful BMP programs. And then the third is possible solutions to prevent, reduce, and to remove lead contamination for each type of range. So these recommendations have been proven to be effective in reducing lead contaminations, and they're designed to be simple and inexpensive as possible, and always using available equipment and technology. So I believe that our community in this area believes that the lead remediation requirements set forth in the new CUP for the gun club are critical to any successful and safe coexistence between the gun club and its neighbors. And we think that they should be left as they are in the CUP.
Great, thank you very much for your comments. Who would like to speak next? Come on up, sir.
Evening, Councilman. John Norgard, N7W30605 Cherokee Trail. I've been following this situation, obviously, for a long time. My property is closer than the Delafield brew house. I have an 11, a 9, and a 7-year-old child. In between my property and the gun club's property is one other house with a 3-year-old and 1-year-old. Across the street is a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. There are small children running around, and when the NRA comes in as an expert to keep the gun club open, and they make the comment that they cannot guarantee an open air range will keep every bullet in it, it scares me. Am I supposed to keep my kids in? Tell them summer's coming, they can't go out? Am I supposed to watch my neighbor's kids come in? Am I supposed to listen to gunfire for all hours as they propose? They say they'll do baffles, they say they can't put a fence in to keep people out. I'm not worried about people going in. I'm worried about bullets coming out. And that's all I wanted to say.
Great, we appreciate your comments. Who'd like to be next? Are there any, come on up.
Good evening. My name is Tracy Dallin, and I've been a property owner at 3434 Broken Bow Trail since 2003. I've been here in front of you guys before, and I didn't intend to speak tonight, so I'm really not prepared on anything written up. But everyone is talking about safety, and there's one thing that struck me yesterday in particular, and that's why I'm here tonight, is I had to work at the 12 and under state swim championships yesterday for the Lake Country Phoenix swim team. And every parent that has a child in the swim team is required to help work at that event, as helping the greater swimming community. And there was a child swimming at that event who qualified for that 12 and under state championship. And that child was the child that was in utero that was struck that afternoon at the Delafield Brew House. So I just want you to know that this isn't just nameless, faceless people. These are the people that live in this community that are affected by this. There's real people. His mom was there working at that swim meet, making this world go around for her kid. But for the grace of God, that bullet didn't have a different trajectory, or I would not have seen that child swim and compete so well at the state championships yesterday. So, you can't pull a bullet back. And I'm not saying that I'm against guns. For crying out loud, right now, my son is at hunter safety course at Brandy Brook with my husband. He wants to hunt. We're not against guns. We just really don't want guns to affect the health and welfare of this community. And I hear a lot of people talking about, well, they want, they're afraid of the stray shots, they're afraid of the lead, they're afraid of people straying onto the property. Yeah, we all have a lot of fears, and I know you all put a lot of work into this, but it seems to me that there's a real easy solution for everybody here to get along, and that would be an indoor range. The lead's not escaping, the bullets aren't escaping, the noise is escaping, and the gun club can still function. And the ship has probably sailed on that, but it just seems like a logical option, and I haven't heard it talked about. So that's all I have to say. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. They're appreciated. Come on up, sir.
My name is Mike Ritter. I live at N46 W28728 Willowbrook Court in Heartland, and I'm really going to switch gears here. Entirely different topic. A friend of mine, Jeff Chewgum, he lives in Okauchee, and I'm in Heartland. We found a couple lots that we really like, beautiful lots by Sunset View Drive. They're way up high, and they're difficult to get to. Access is an issue. There's some really steep roads. And there's an old road. My understanding is it's like 50 years old, and it hasn't really been maintained. So in figuring out how to purchase these lots and how to gain access to them, I think Jeff worked with Tom a bit and then learned from the mayor there may be some interest in the city in having a public walkway in there. So Jeff had put together a proposal for what that might look like and sharing some of the costs with that. So we were hoping to have a discussion about that.
Great. Thank you for your comments. Who would like to be next? Any other citizens' comments, sir?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Troy Duborg, 3526 Broken Bow Trail, City of Delafield. I'd like to use this model to demonstrate the differences between what the Heartland Sportsman's Club is proposing for baffling on their ranges and what range designers recommend to be safe. Heartland Sportsman's Club is proposing a single baffle design that has adjustable baffles on it. I'm not sure how well you guys can see this model, but it really creates a lot of open air space, and by most expert recommendation is not very safe. It allows ricochets to possibly leave the range, and what most range experts recommend is a fully baffled range. As you can see, it eliminates the chance for ricochets possibly leaving the range, and reduces that possibility very greatly. Well-recognized range designer Clark Varkas has said if property owners have built or could build dwellings within a half-mile downrange of your property, you could possibly get away with a 45-degree angle design and should baffle the range completely from firing line to the target line. If neighbors are within a 1/4 mile, which is the case with a lot of people here in Delafield, then it's recommended to use a 90-degree design. This design is such that if someone were to point a firearm up and fire vertically, the round would not leave the range. Several local ranges have implemented this fully baffled system, including McMillan and Eagle, to operate as a safe shooting facility. If this design had been in use in 2010 at the Heartland Sportsman's Club, a pregnant woman probably would not have been shot at the Delafield Brew House. The Heartland Sportsman's Club will argue to let them open up 1 or 2 ranges first. They claim this will bring in an influx of new members, and they will be able to make further improvements at a later date. It's the same argument that's been used in the past. It didn't happen then, and it probably won't happen now. Finally, I urge you to require the Heartland Sportsman's Club to fully baffle every shooting range and not to allow them to open up until this criteria is met completely to protect the welfare and safety of the public in and around the Heartland Sportsman's Club complex. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much for your comments. Who else would like to be next? Any other citizens' comments? Come on up, Jim.
Good evening. Jim Zahorik, 1948 West Shore Drive. And my wife and I also own a 10-acre parcel at 468 South Genesee. And the topic that I wish to speak on this evening is item 3, committee reports, subparagraph N, Deer Management Committee. I am here to publicly compliment a gentleman that has put a great deal of effort into trying to eliminate part of our deer problem. That is Alderman Wayne Dane. He's put in countless hours working with members in the community, trying to get property owners to allow hunters on their land to make an impact in this growing, and I'm saying growing, deer population in Lake Country. It's a serious problem. We all are panicking right now because of the coronavirus. But right here in Delafield, we have another problem, and it's not just Delafield, it's Eagle, it's Summit, and it's chronic wasting disease. And it's when a deer herd gets too populated that they can transmit this disease between themselves. And the effect is far-reaching. On our property this year, with hunters that were screened by Wayne and the deer committee, I have to report that everyone that was on my property, our property, Mary's and my property, were cordial, professional, and when they left, the neighbors didn't even know they had been there. That's the quality of hunters that were on our property. And I've been informed now that the sharpshooters, their period also ended on February 29th. As you drive down I-94 or Highway C, or I'm sure many of the other highways around us, you'll constantly see more and more dead deer on the road, which means impact with motor vehicles. Hopefully, the individuals driving those vehicles were not injured. Some of them are. And we have to continue with this attempt to reduce that deer herd. So, in closing, I know a lot of the people speaking this tonight having to do with the Heartland Gun Club, but I would ask other property owners in the city of Delafield or the town of Delafield that have sufficient land that would allow hunting on it to allow that to continue to reduce this deer herd. And finally, if there is a possibility of getting the DNR to give us an extension for the sharpshooters, I think that would be very worthwhile. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any other citizens' comments? Come on up.
So I would like to formally provide my uncharacteristic criticism of the Plan Commission's decision to not approve the Hendricks Building site proposal last week.
Name and address, please.
Sandra Felker, 2420 Nagawicca Road. Our city is struggling financially, and that cannot be disputed. Our revenues will not and cannot support our expenses going into 2021 unless significant changes are made. Hendricks is a known developer whom the city has or should have a strong relationship with. Tenants have provided feedback over the past few months at city meetings on both the investments made and just how much the city has improved and benefited since Hendricks took ownership of the other buildings they own in downtown. My understanding is that the new building site proposal fully complied with code, and that feedback from the developer meetings with the city leading up to last week regarding the new design was positive. This revenue stream is desperately needed for our city going forward without needing to cut services or pass a referendum to raise the levy limit. Whether the commission or this council recognizes this or not, last week's meeting represented hope to so many of the people who depend on Delafield for their livelihood. Our local business owners support the proposed office space that will bring more people downtown, which will help to increase their own revenues to support ever-growing labor and operating expenses. As our only alternatives to generating additional revenue base is either a tax increase or budget cuts, our city employees must also be terrified for their jobs. I support this development, and from what I gather, most people across the city are more than ready to see the vacant lot developed. But I also respect if there are a few adjustments the commission would have liked to see incorporated. I just do not think the design preferences cited warranted further delay. I think it would be amazing if this council could work with the developers and the Plan Commission to make sure the design can be approved by both the Plan Commission and the Common Council next month. The city will likely be able to manage expenses and cut spending as next year's budget is considered, but we need to add this revenue base if we are to support the city ongoing. Thank you for your help.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, any other citizens' comments? Any other citizens' comments? Last call. Citizens' comments are now closed. All right, we will move on to item number 2, the consent agenda. Is there a motion on the consent agenda?
I have a motion for one correction on the consent agenda. And it is, I have it here. In one little part, it was when a motion was made and seconded to approve a common council submittal. And then at the bottom, when the vote was taken, it said all were in favor, motion carried, but then it said Valdy voting nay. So it shouldn't be all were in favor now. It should be 6-1 or whatever. So that's the only correction.
So you want to take item A off the consent agenda? No, we're just going to...
Or can we move to accept
That was a correction, but we need a motion. So do you have a
I will
motion
move
with
to
that
accept with
correction?
that one correction. How's that?
That'll work.
All right.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right.
Thanks,
Any
John.
discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes. All right, committee reports. 3A licenses.
There are no licenses, thank you.
Okay. 3B, Planning Commission, Mr. Eicher.
Okay, we did have a full meeting last week. We've got several action items here to go through. The main topic at the meeting, I'll just give us a quick summary of that, was 705 Genesee Street, the former BP gas station. That's for the proposed Hendricks development. Just a couple of things to point out. That was the first chance that the Plan Commission had to see, give feedback, and act upon the proposal for that development. This is after the zoning changes, and so given that there was a lot of feedback that was given to the developer, and there's a lot of questions, and there was some design elements that were in flux, like the distance of overhang for the roof design elements. There was some construction materials that weren't identified, and they were being discussed and deliberated on by the developer. There was a couple issues with traffic turn radiuses in the parking lot that needed to be adjusted. Materials and pedestrian flow, there was some feedback given that just to give some consideration. And frankly, there was a lot of aesthetics discussion that were given as feedback, not necessarily as a mandate. And so just given all those things, that proposal was referred to the Public Works Commission for some of the infrastructure concerns, and it'll be back to the Plan Commission at the end of next month. So essentially, what's needs to be a one-step approval process with all the details in hand. We didn't have everything we needed, and I don't think this costs a lot of time, but it's going to be coming back to the end of to us at the end of the month, and ideally all those answers are given, and it would be up for approval at the March meeting. The issues that we have in front of us today, first is what we just heard quite a lot of feedback on, and that's the Heartland Sportsman's Club. It wasn't a topic at our last Plan Commission meeting, but 2 meetings ago it was, and 3 or 4 meetings ago it was as well. It's back in front of us because of ongoing court decisions that let us know that we should be entertaining it, and we should be working with the gun club to issue a CUP, a conditional use permit. And as you see in the packet, there was a conditional use that was drafted. It was sent to the gun club and its representatives, and there was some things that came back to us with some red lines and some updates that feedback was taken and some changes were made. And at the last Plan Commission meeting, in the January meeting, we did take action to approve a conditional use permit that we have in our packet here tonight. And I guess with that, I'll defer to Attorney Hammes to just enlighten us as far as where we are in the process and what's in front of us tonight.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, as Alderman Aker indicated, the matter was referred back to the city for issuance of the conditional use permit, even though the matter is still in the Court of Appeals. As a matter of fact, just today I received notice from the Court of Appeals that the appellate case is going to be decided on the briefs that have been submitted rather than oral arguments. But I would imagine that you're looking at mid to late summer before we get a decision on that matter. So we had asked that the matter be put over until the Court of Appeals reviewed it and made a decision, but the club objected to that, and the court directed that the city proceed with the conditional use permit application according to our ordinances and the state statutes. So in accordance with that decision, staff met and we put together a draft conditional use permit. Now that's the standard practice that we follow around here. You get a draft of what's being considered based on public hearings. That was provided to the club in October, and it was placed on the October agenda. At the October meeting, representatives from the club addressed the conditional use permit conditions, and the Plan Commission did as well. And there were certain changes that were made, some because of comments by the club, others at the request of the Plan Commission. It was revised. Red line copy was sent out. It was going to be on the November 19th Plan Commission meeting. The club then requested to be put off till December. That then requested to be put off till January. And the Plan Commission said, okay, fine, we'll put it off till January, but no further. And so on January 14th, we did receive back a letter from the club addressing a number of issues. And based on that letter, there were additional changes made. And there was a memo that Roger Dupler put together dated January 23rd, which addresses those. But in summary, for example, the club argued that the draft conditional use permit required that they keep a guest roster and provide it to the city, which would be a public record, and they were concerned about the identity of guests, and so that was modified to reflect only that a guest roster be maintained, not be provided to the city. They argued that any activity not specifically allowed was prohibited, which is true, but that they wanted to do educational and social activities which were not addressed in the conditional use permit. So it was modified, and that a definition of non-shooting activities was added, which would allow those types of activities. They argued that a requirement that a building within 75 feet of the property line, a residential property line, be raised or removed was unreasonable. That's been there forever. They've used it. The CU was modified again to reflect that they could use it. They didn't have to raise it, but only for non-shooting activities. They argued that the requirement that fencing be installed was going to be difficult because of the terrain, and so the condition was modified to reflect that the fencing could be anywhere within 10 feet of the property line. There were a number of other conditions that they wanted modified, but the staff didn't believe it was appropriate, nor did the Plan Commission. Now, the Plan Commission did take it up in January. There was a transcript. Everybody has received a copy of that transcript, correct? They had a chance to review it before tonight's meeting, so you know what the discussion was, what the issues were, what the thinking of the Plan Commission was. The way the conditional use is set up, there are a lot of conditions that are imposed. They're all, in the opinion of the Plan Commission, reasonable conditions. For example, there's a model here of a baffling system, a full baffling system. Conditional use permit, as drafted, would require that a similar baffle system be put together, drafted plans, and be submitted within 90 days for review and approval. All of those conditions need to be met before the conditional use permit ultimately becomes effective. The only, as I was looking at, the only issue that I would note, and perhaps for clarification, on paragraph or section 14 on page 14, I think, of the document, subparagraph G, it says that it's the events resulting in the termination of the conditional use permit. And it reads now, one of the events would be the failure of the club within 18 months following issuance of the conditional use permit to comply with all of these conditions, such as installing the baffling systems and so on. I think the wording probably would better read within 18 months following tonight's approval of this, as opposed to the issuance, because technically the conditional use permit wouldn't be issued until after all of these conditions are met. So you have the document, you have the various drafts, you have the memo, you have the transcript, you have the entire record. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have, but what you have in front of you is a recommendation of the Plan Commission. And if you approve it, I would approve it with that recommendation that the language with 18 months following issuance be modified to reflect with 18 months following the March 2nd, 2020 approval of the conditional use permit in paragraph G, section 14.
Jim, do you have advice on how a motion should be made to ensure that it's not arbitrary?
Well, you know, if you want to go through and discuss each of the conditions, you can. That's up to the council. But I think we take extraordinary steps in this case to provide to you not only the entire record, but the discussion of the Plan Commission, where the Plan Commission's recommendation considered each one of these conditions as well as the objections that were made. And you've had that, you've read that. If there's something you want to, council members want to add beyond that, or if they take issue with those discussions, then now's the time to do it. If you're of the opinion that the matter was well discussed and thoroughly considered by the Plan Commission, as reflected in the the transcript and in the record that you've got, then you can move forward with approving it.
Yeah, and, I'll add that this was not there was a lot of time and effort that went into these discussions over the past, even leading into our September, October, and November meetings as far as what should be in this conditional use permit, and what we arrived at was a plan that 6 of the 7 Plan Commission members all voted for, with 1 person abstaining. And I believe I'm correct, Attorney Hamness, that some of the things like final fence design and other things, those are going to be things that are going to be coming back in front of the Plan Commission as a collaborative effort with the gun club.
Yes, right. That's why, for example, the conditional use permit doesn't dictate the size or height or type of fencing. Rather, the requirement that a fence be installed is the intent is to prevent people from inadvertently going on the property while the activities are being conducted on the property, the shooting activities. And so it's left to the discretion of the club to present a design of a fence, including the height and so on, and then the Plan Commission review and approve that. Again, the idea was to give the club some flexibility, rather than dictating this is what you must do. There's a requirement for fencing, and this is the purpose of it. Show the Plan Commission what it is you would prefer to do. The same with the baffling system. The conditional use permit includes a diagram which shows the type of baffling system, but again, it's within 90 days of the approval, assuming it's approved tonight. It's up to the club to come back with a actual design and drawings that would depict the specific type of baffling system, and the Plan Commission would then review and approve it according to the dictates of the conditional use permit.
I think the city on many levels has done their due diligence to try to come up with a reasonable plan. And I think this represents those efforts and is as fair as it can be to both parties.
I would just add, as a comment on that, I mean, for example, the argument relating to the hours of operation, it was argued that, we should have additional hours of operation for deer sighting in the fall. And after that issue was brought to the Plan Commission's attention, the draft conditional use permit was modified to allow, the use of the club for deer rifle sighting in November on weekends where otherwise it would be prohibited. So the Plan Commission did look at those, and that's reflected in the transcript, and try to make accommodations that would balance the interests of the club and the interests and rights of the adjoining property owners and the residents of the city.
We heard from the owner of the brew hub, Bob Fleming, about the hours. We have right now the hours on Saturdays, a couple Saturdays a month until noon. He was suggesting ending shooting by 11 so it doesn't interfere with their already booked weddings and other activities outside. Any thoughts about whether we should be changing? Can we make a change in the hours, or we need to leave those what the Plan Commission put?
Well, that's
just reducing 1 hour to make accommodations to the local businesses.
That's your judgment call.
Well, I think the number of hours should be curtailed, and I'd be happy to make a motion for that. I think that's the least we can do. I mean, I am a terrible golfer, and I like to golf. And there's a business called Top Golf. And if you've ever been there, it's awesome. I mean, because you can hit those balls wild, which I've been known to do. And the reason I'm mentioning it is that they have fencing and netting all around that place that is multi-stories high. And I like to go as high as I can because then my balls go further. and I can pretend like I know how to hit a golf ball. But the point is if Top Golf has to have all of this fencing and all of this netting to prevent a flippin' golf ball from hitting a car or a person, and they're not noisy, because, then I think a gun club ought to put up baffles and be ultra protective of the surrounding area. At one point in time, it was very unsettled, but it no longer is. So as people were talking, it just hit me like, wow, Top Golf, they have to protect and keep golf balls in. I think bullets should be taken as seriously as golf balls.
Well, the hours of operation are on page 13, and on Saturdays they're at 9 a.m. to 12 noon. And if you were going to keep the same 3 hours, would you go from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m.?
I would.
I'm
yeah,
just-
you're looking,
To keep
yeah.
the same number of hours, is that what
Yeah,
you're
keep the
suggesting?
hours.
Yes.
Pretty early on a Saturday.
Yeah.
Is that, it says the first and the third Saturday, so then they're closed the second or fourth, is that correct?
Right, so only the first and the third Saturdays
Except for
from 9
November, yeah,
a.m.
which
to
is
12
noted.
p.m. So it's
Yeah.
only 2 Saturdays, except for the November.
First three.
Then it's actually 3 Saturday, the first 3 Saturdays, and it goes to 3 p.m. But you got to remember, you have to balance the interests of the club as well as everyone else.
Yeah, I'd be inclined to leave them, just as a matter of discussion here, because of the earlier hour. I think that, understanding we were asked by one property owner, 11 versus noon, we can also, there might be an accommodation that would have a wedding be at noon instead of 11, so it's kind of a horse apiece, but I think as they're stated is reasonable. I wouldn't hold up being in favor of the whole thing based on that, but that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I'd agree with Tim on that. The 9 to noon seems reasonable.
And worth
8 a.m. is awfully early for gunfire.
Yeah, and worth mentioning too is, deferring to some NRA handbooks on that are in our packet here, and what we're referencing as far as a guideline. So there's some trust in the fact that we're relying on them as a good source for keeping, a range design and keeping bullets where they're supposed to be.
All right. Somebody like to make a motion?
You made it for the Plan Commission, you did a good job.
I'm good with that. I'd like to make a motion to approve the conditional use permit for the Heartland Sportsman's Club, 701 Maple Avenue, Delafield, DELC 0825.994, based on the approval from the Plan Commission, with the change in language as stated by Attorney Hannes for the
Section 14G.
Yeah, Section 14G, based on the date, 18 months starting from today's date of March 2nd.
Second.
All right, is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Passes. Great. Thank you for the good discussion.
All right.
Thank you for all that came on that topic.
The next ones are likely to come with a little less tension. Item 3B, number 2, discussion and action regarding the site plan to accommodate a new monument sign for St. Michael's Anglican Church. This is the church on Genesee Street as you go north, entering Neshota. This is just an update in signage because the church changed hands. And this was unanimously approved for a church and a cross on the property.
Move to approve. Jehovah's Witness.
Second.
Oh, okay, who is first?
Matt, and
Matt?
then I seconded.
And Valley second. Thank
So
you.
the question, yeah, it was the old
Jehovah's Witness.
Witness Church, and now it's in St. Michael's, which used to be downtown here.
Right. So you guys, if you guys could please exit so we can continue on with our business, we'd greatly appreciate it. All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions passes.
Next one is similar, new signs for interior directional signs at Christ the King Church. Just tell people where the church is, where to park, how to get there. They took feedback from their first meeting and just reduced the square footage a little bit, and they look real nice.
Move to approve?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions passes.
And item 3B4, the Plan Commission was able to have enough information and details to approve the certified survey map for 705 Genesee Street. Right now it's 2 parcels. This is combining those 2 parcels so that they can do one development.
Move to approve?
Second.
If you could just add the contingency of that they comply with the surveyor's review letter, that would be appreciated.
Including that contingency?
Second.
Okay, we good?
Thanks, Tom.
Same with the next one.
What? Yep. So all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions passes. Did you get the names and everything there?
Okay, our next one is certified survey map for combining 2 parcels or, 2 lots into one. This is to satisfy a parking issue that is now getting taken care of if we do this CSM contingent upon the surveyor's review letter details.
Move to approve?
Second.
Based on that.
Based on the contingencies, yes.
All right.
Can you say that louder, sorry?
Based on the contingencies identified by the Plan Commission.
And I seconded.
Okay, I'm going to ask for discussion just because. Seeing no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions passes.
Okay, and just to emphasize again, the last Wednesday of this month, Hendrick's property at 705 Genesee Street will be on the agenda again. And so if you have any feedback on or opinions on that, please come and share it with us. And that is it for the Plan Commission.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, Lake Welfare Committee, Mr. Maples.
No meeting, no report. Next meeting is the 11th of March at 6 p.m. right here.
Park and Rec Commission, Mr. Grimmer.
2 small items. The 5-year plan persists. It's almost done, is the word that I get. And then the second thing is the American Legion was granted access to the shed that exists on their property and the equipment in that shed, and that will aid them in planning and maintaining and generating ball clubs to use that field.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, Public Works, Mr. Dean.
No meeting since our last one. Report next meeting will be this Wednesday.
Great. Delahart Commission, Mr. Eicher.
We have a meeting in, 2 weeks. So none since our last meeting.
Alrighty. Police Commission, Mr. Sloga.
Yeah, no meeting, no report. There's a meeting, as you can see, March 26th.
Great. Library Board, Ms. Faldy.
And like lots of others, no meeting. We have one on Tuesday, March 10th, 6:30. I do want to do a little shout out because the last Monday of the month, the library has volunteers, the Friends of the Library at Culver's in Wales. And I and one of the other library committee members ran burgers for 3 hours. It was a lot of fun. And it was just good to see folks from Delafield out there supporting our library. And people work really hard. I was very tired, but it was fun. So that's it.
Sounds good. Zoning Board of Appeals, Mr. Barron is not here. Promotion and Tourism, Mr. Sloga again.
Yeah, no meeting, no reports.
We are going through it quick. Lake Country Fire and Commission, not aware of a meeting. Lake Country Fire Board, Mr. Grimmer.
No meeting, no report.
Tree Board, Mr. Grimmer.
We had a meeting on the 24th. I will refer you to the minutes. No significant action of issues.
Great, thank you. Deer Management Committee, Mr. Dean.
Let's bring it up to date. We finished with 96 harvested through bow hunting. The sharpshooters have harvested 20. I just talked to the contractors about an hour before the meeting. Our permit with the DNR goes through March 31st of this year. I think we could continue. We had said we'd probably be done in end of February because they were going to go up to Minnesota. But what has happened is the deer have gotten a little bit wiser, and we didn't get other locations, so it's become increasingly more difficult for them to get deer. John Bourne, the contractors, asked me today if we wanted to continue in March, and I said I think that's something we have to bring up from the council because we said we'd finish in February, but we contracted to be able to take 50. That's in the budget. They've only taken 20. So I guess I'm looking for feedback as to anybody wants them to continue to try and continue to get more deer under the permit as allowed, or just stop now. Any thoughts or?
Well, I'd like to see us get the other 30 if we can. I mean, is that reasonable? Do they think they can do that?
Yeah, if they're given the time. I told them originally to stop on Saturday, the end of February. We hope that two reasons are happening. We hope that we've reduced the herd enough that that's why, but they're just not, they're seeing deer, they're just not coming into the bait piles because the deer have just gotten more patterned to the system, so they need to put in more time, more hours than they used to. They used to be able to take out more.
We pay per deer, not per hour?
Per deer.
Right.
I'd say, we signed up for this for that permit time. I don't think we had a hard stop based on our approval.
Well, we
right?
only said it's February, but that's what I said. I didn't want anybody to think we're going to March without your approval.
Yeah.
We've gone into March before.
Yeah.
What is the deadline on the permit?
The end of March. From the DNR, it goes through March.
I don't think any action taken by the council limits us to February, I don't think.
I'm not aware of any.
Our permit with the DNR went through March, so I just need to tell the sharpshooters whether to continue or not and try and harvest more. I doubt if they'll get near the 50, but there are some problem areas like Oakwood Park still that they'd like to make more of.
Is there any opposition in the council to continuing into March?
No.
Okay.
And I will advise them to continue trying to get more heads under the permit. Okay.
Sounds good.
Otherwise, that's my report.
Great.
I have a
Thank you.
question about Deer Management Committee. You meet regularly regardless of the...
As needed. We haven't met since before the first of the season.
When would the next meeting be for, just because you invite public and you get citizens' comments and feedback, right? So
I think that'll be up to the next year management chairman.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, the way to find out is just check the city's calendar, right? We'll have a meeting sometime in the next few months. Okay.
Yeah, nothing's good.
Okay. Just check.
Okay. Mayor's report. Discussion and possible action to accept the resignation of Erin McDonald from the Promotion and Tourism Commission. Original term ended April 2020. Apparently she has moved out of town and has vacated the spot.
So you'll only be taking her resignation, we're not filming it.
No, we're just taking her resignation. I believe I first heard of it like a week ago.
I move to accept her resignation.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes. Okay, new business. 6A, discussion and request for direction from staff on how to proceed with the proposal received from Jeff, help me Tom. Teagham, regarding access issues related to 2 vacant properties on Sunset View Drive, and a request from Mayor Atwell to incorporate the accommodations of a public pedestrian access into the proposal. The inclusion of the accommodating pedestrian access involves a proposed cost share by the city. So I'll let Tom do that, but I just want to give a brief overview. I found out about this apparently long-standing issue maybe a week and a half ago, and I asked that we investigate the possibility of connecting to neighborhoods. Based on my prior experience, certainly in the neighborhood closest to Highway 83, there's been a strong desire for a number of people in there to be able to walk through the next community, get over to Indian Springs Road, and be able to eventually get to Latham Peak. And today there just does not exist such a connection. You have to go through somebody's private property to be able to do that. And there's, neighborhood issues around this topic. So I just asked if the city was going to be needing to do something, maybe we could get an easement of some type in return, and to at least have the discussion about it, right? So it's a week and a half old issue topic to me. So we got a lot of work done in that period of time.
All right, my turn?
Yep.
All right, as Ken said, this has been a long-standing problem for the city of Delafield going back to the 1960s. In the past, I know Alderman Eicher's been involved in this, Alderman Dean's been involved in this. Past aldermen have been involved in it. I know Alderman Leonard had been involved in it in the past. And what we've got here is, if you look at your map and you see the end of Indian Spring Drive, and I'm talking about the map on page 107 of your packet. So on the main screen, we're looking up in this area right here. And in the 1960s, the developer that developed this subdivision wanted to put in a very steep road that's shown on your map as Spring Drive. And it was so steep that the city would not take ownership of it. There was concern that fire engines, police cars, ambulances couldn't make their way up there. And that was fine with the developer at the time, and he went forward. And since then, there's been many instances where this issue comes up in past council agendas, and consistently the city has refused to take ownership. Because over time, what happened is this road was built in the 1960s, and no one's done anything to it ever since. It's in extremely poor condition, and over time, people have asked the city to take ownership of it, to fix it, and consistently the city said no. In 1960, we said we're not going to, and they've consistently upheld that opinion. So in the back here, these two properties, actually let me start by this property right here. The gentleman that lives here also owns this property and this property, and he's looking at selling those two properties now. He's actually been trying to sell for a couple of years, and buyers have been kind of scared away by the lack of access back to those properties. And so Jeff Teagum's been interested the last couple of weeks, and he's got a partner, Mike Ritter, who talked to you this evening. They're interested in buying those two properties. And initially what they wanted to do is they came to me and said, hey, Tom, we want to improve the drive up Spring Drive and then to the north up Sunset View so we can have a nice driveway back to those two properties. Initially, they said that they wanted to buy that property from the city, Spring Drive and Sunset View. And let me take one step backwards. This right-of-way or road property had been private property in the 1960s when the city refused to take ownership of it. And somehow, by default, in the 1980s, it became the city's property due to unpaid back taxes. So we own the property, and ever since then we say, okay, yes, it is city property, but the road on it is still private and not our responsibility. So they wanted to buy that property from the city. There's some complications because there's a couple other properties back there that needed for access. We talked about that we could do access easements and things like that. But we were on our way to a proposal where the two people looking to build houses back there would have fully paid for the road up Spring Drive and then to the north. And then the mayor came and said that he had that interest in trying to figure out a way to get pedestrian access. And so what we did is we talked to the gentleman that lives here, interested in selling the two properties, actually talked to his daughter who's representing him, and said, would you be willing to do an access easement through there in order for the city to get a walking path? That evolved into the two people interested in building the house expressing an interest in putting their driveway there instead of down to Indian Spring Drive because they have a preference to be able to exit to the east rather than the west. And so then what that evolved into is a proposal from the people interested in building back there, where the city would have an interest in a walking path, they have an interest in a driveway, and a proposal that the cost of that would be shared 50-50 by the city. We don't have a cost estimate. Before putting any effort into this, well, I've put a significant amount of effort into it so far, but before we put any more kind of professional services into it for engineering, things like that, just want to run it past the city and see which direction we should go. Should we be focusing more on just getting access to the people looking to buy there, or should we incorporate the idea of pedestrian access in there, and whether we do that by some kind of cost share or other means?
Tom, can you clarify the city's interest in creating a pedestrian path for these two properties over to Hillside Drive? Yeah.
Yeah,
That's it. So a pedestrian path for
between those two.
between those two properties.
Between these.
To a street, and that's the city's interest.
It could be as simple as just an easement
there's a
and
cost.
simply cover it with some wood chips.
So as far as the city's interest, it's not something that's contained in any of our past plans or anything like that, but the mayor identified that in the past when he's gone door to door campaigning in that area, that he has heard from the neighbors in there that they would like an opportunity to be able to walk through Sunset View Drive, Spring Drive, so that they can go on walks and things like that. Now, right now, they're fairly locked in their neighborhood. I mean, they've got Highway 83 on one side with limited pedestrian accommodations. They could go across the street on the Hillside Drive, and there are sidewalks there. But that's really the reason that it's come up, is the mayor's interaction with residents in that neighborhood and understanding that there's a desire for some kind of access through there.
So you're talking, you're talking about Indian Springs residents going up Spring Drive on their bikes or walking and getting down to Hillside Drive?
The mayor indicated the opposite. The people that live on Hillside Court, Hillside Drive are the ones that said they're interested in being able to get through there and go on longer walks up Indian Spring Drive and things
Because I
like
went
that.
and canvassed the neighborhood recently, and John Barker lives there. He lives on 91. And I didn't get that same opinion from those people. They were like, no, we don't want people walking through here. I didn't hear a whole bunch of people saying they need a pathway between.
But did this originate though with just improving Spring Drive and then north?
Well, if you've ever been down Spring Drive, that's barely, it's hard to get up
Right,
there.
it's
Isn't
not
there
a-
Also, that's because of the grade, the city can't accept that. Am I not right? Because
I mean,
it's so steep.
the city could accept it, but we've held firm over the decades that we will not accept it.
Well, right now, they have, it's one of those weird things, as you said, it's city-owned property, but with an easement on there for a private road.
There's
So
not,
it's a
even,
private road.
there's not even an easement that was ever established. I mean, the road existed, and then the city gained ownership of the property, and it's never formally been.
So they can improve Spring Road and kind of drive and get to those lots. Right now, there's a base there. If we start to put in a shared road, it costs more than this, a little bit of area going through that lot 974 that you look at it. To put in a base of 12 foot and have a shared cost, that could be very expensive.
It
Yeah,
likely would be
More
more
expensive.
expensive than, that short segment would be more expensive than the longer run out to
It's already
Indian
got a
Spring
base
Drive,
to it.
because, yes.
I just don't think we should be
The
spending.
people looking to buy-
Where the city is right now, I just don't think we should be spending money on a shared path for something. I just don't think.
I see two separate things.
I'm not suggesting spending any money.
Well, there's a share in one way or another.
Well, it depends upon how it would end up working out, but I'm not suggesting that the city spend any money on it. I'm suggesting that we try to work with the folks that have a desire to get some things from the city, that in exchange we get an easement, and whether we improve the easement, don't improve the easement at this time will be up to other folks. It's simply the opportunity to try to get the access at basically zero
Feedback
cost.
is, don't spend any money on it. If they give us an easement.
At zero cost.
A wood chip path at zero
Yeah.
cost, okay, but we shouldn't
Yeah.
be spending any money.
But I'm confused. I thought we were talking about the lots just to the west and not about the 974 lot. We're talking about these,
That's where they're trying to get access.
right,
These
from Spring,
by
right.
going through here.
Going through there.
Right here.
Yeah, no, I see that, but is that what they're asking, was for that and not the Spring Drive? I just got caught up with Spring Drive.
Well, that would be the
So,
city share.
Jackie, just to go over one more time, originally they were asking for Spring Drive and then to the
Okay.
north.
All right,
But then the mayor had his request. I followed up with the owner of 974,
gotcha.
and 974 indicated, yeah, they might be interested in providing some kind of a easement. Once 974 said that, then the people looking to build reconsidered their options and said, hey, if we're gonna get something through there, we wouldn't mind getting a driveway through there.
Got it,
But with-
okay.
But with that being said, they've kind of got, their current proposal that's in your packet has two components. One is just doing that drive through 974.
Right.
With the city paying half and them paying half.
Okay.
And then they also kind of added on to that they would also like to still do down Spring Drive all the way out to Indian Spring Drive if the city was willing to pay for half of that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. So I'm hearing that the city is not interested in cost sharing anything?
I'm not interested in cost sharing anything.
I'm not interested.
I'm not interested.
Okay, and if the proposed property owners, the people that are interested in there, if they go back to their original plan and have an interest in acquiring Spring Drive and Sunset View, is there any interest in that?
Not selling it.
What's that?
And the city's selling our property right
Yeah,
now.
so I would want to still check with Attorney Hamas
Still, as long as
on
it's a
our,
private road, not a road that we'd have to take on under Public Works
correct,
for maintenance of.
correct.
The grade on that road for plowing and everything, if we had to take it as a city street, I'd be interested in selling the property, but it still would need to be maintained as a private road.
Well, I think that's something
Which has
to
been the
look at.
position for
Yeah.
the city for a long time.
So, yeah, I think that's something to look at. Don't you
Everyone
think?
kind of giving the same head nod?
Yes.
I think so.
Okay, that gives me direction to work with the property owners and see what we can work out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, 6B, discussion possible action to approve an assessment error correction for DELC 0784.982 owned by Janice Suffling and Andrew Koss in the amount of $59.21 as recommended by our assessor, Cal Magnan.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes. Okay, 6C, discussion and possible action to approve an assessment error correction for DELC 0878.023.001 owned by Bruce and Amy Newmiller in the amount of $2,481.45 as recommended by our assessor, Cal Magnan.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes. Reports by city officials. Administrator.
Yeah, a couple things tonight. First of all, Alderman Eicher and I had the pleasure of being at the Chick-fil-A grand opening last Thursday. They put on a nice event. We had the St. John's cadets there to do the national anthem. We did the ribbon cutting. Tim and I got to participate in the ceremonial first bite.
Yep.
And
Together, like a
in an
wedding?
unbiased opinion, the Chick-fil-A at Delafield, their chicken sandwiches are significantly better than the one in Pewaukee or Brookfield.
I don't know why.
Sorry.
Everything's better in Delafield.
Must be the water.
And lastly, Tim declared that the city of Delafield is ready to eat more chickens. Let's see, bids received. Last Thursday, we opened up three different bids for three different contracts. I got good news for you on two of them, bad news on one of them. Our street improvement program came in $80,000 under budget. Our Gulf Road landscaping project came in $10,000 under budget. And our Negawicka Road path came in $111,000 over budget.
Ouch.
And those bids are going to the Public Works Committee on Wednesday. We're recommending award on the two contracts that are under budget. And we're asking the Public Works Committee to take no action this month as we work with contractors to investigate why the prices came in so high. And we'll ask the Public Works Committee to make a recommendation next month. So at your next meeting, you'll see 2 of the bids on your agenda, and then the other one will be in April. Any questions on that? Let's see, public hearing for Gulf Road special assessments. That's going to be at the beginning of our next council meeting on March 16th. Public notices have gone out for that. And lastly, if you remember back in October, the council asked for the American Legion to come back before this body in March because our contract has a deadline by the end of March. We have to notify them in writing if we want to consider getting out of the lease for the year 2021. So that's going to be on the next agenda. But Mayor Atwell's been working with them to try to come up with some compromise solutions. And it's my understanding he's going to be seeking some approval from them for an extension of that deadline. But we'll talk more about that at the next meeting.
Okay.
And that concludes my report.
Thank you.
Okie dokie, clerk.
The only item I have is discussion and action on the voucher list, please.
Where is it?
Oh, got it upstairs. I'll go get it in just a second.
I move to approve the voucher list.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes. Okay, 7F, council request for future agenda items. Any future agenda items? Seeing none, we'll move on to 8, correspondence. Intergovernmental cooperative planning between the town of Lisbon and the village of Lannon. And 8B, Village of Summit public hearing notice, amend master plan. Seeing no further business, we are adjourned at 8:36 p.m.
That's a lot better.